This is Our Faculty, the VCU School of Medicine podcast series from the Office of Faculty Affairs. I'm your host, Katherine Henderson, and I'm here to introduce you to interesting people at VCU, their projects, and their perspectives. This week's episode focuses on the KL2 program through the VCU C. Kenneth and Diane Wright Center for Clinical and Translational Research. Today, we're starting with Dr. Nana-Sinkam, who is chair of the Division of Pulmonary Disease and Critical Care Medicine. He's a professor of medicine, and he's also currently serving as the associate director of the KL2 Career Development and Mentoring Award Program. Thank you for being with us today, Dr. Nana-Sinkam. Will you tell us a bit about the KL2 program at VCU, its significance here and beyond?
Of course. Well, first, thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to be with you. So the purpose of the KL2 program is essentially to provide young investigators, young faculty, with a bridge program with a goal of eventually reaching independence. The reason a program such as the KL2 program is so important is that we recognize in the scientific community that the path towards becoming an independent researcher, i.e. a researcher who runs his or her own laboratory, it's a pretty winding road. It can take a fair amount of time. There are many obstacles along the way. Additionally, it requires very specific skills, developing a research idea, a research team, writing grants, writing manuscripts. And we also know that the complexity of human disease requires that we develop the next generation of researchers, those researchers who will be prepared to tackle the most complex research questions and illness that will impact our patients. This whole concept is very much aligned with the goals of the institution, with VCU, in that we want to be able to translate our research to improve the health of our patients. And we recognize that research is moving so quickly. The complexities of human illness are becoming more complex. And so we really have to be prepared to train that next generation of scientists, clinician scientists, and basic scientists. The KL2 is essentially a mentored career development award. And I say mentored because it is essential that any scholar who joins that program has a very robust mentorship team. It is a multidisciplinary type of award in which we provide young investigators with didactic training, hands-on training, mentorship, exposure to multidisciplinary research through a lens of ongoing evaluation to ensure that they are meeting their goals along the way. Most KL2 programs range between 2 to 3 years in duration because we recognize that it often requires that investigators have 2 to 3 years of really dedicated time towards their research before they're ready to apply for their first true independent award. During the course of the KL2 program, we provide a young faculty with additional training in specific areas that we know are important to becoming an independent researcher of today and tomorrow, which include team science, community engaged research, which is, again, very important to the goals of our institution, given the patients that we serve. We talk as well about approaches to effective clinical research and how do you conduct a clinical trial? What are the various approaches that you need to take in constructing an effective clinical study? We talk about integrity in research. We would be remiss if we didn't include some type of training that emphasizes the importance of integrity in research. The last thing I would say about the KL2 program is, and I mentioned this at the outset, is the importance of mentorship. This is a mentored career development award. Thus, we emphasize throughout the course of this award the importance of having a strong mentorship team. The actual research project that the investigator has is important, but it's not nearly as important as having a very, very robust career development plan with engaged mentors. So that provides you a bit of an overview of the KL2 program.
A new cycle of the program begins soon, and I had the opportunity to interview the 3 exiting scholars. We'll start with Dr. Mario Acunzo, who is an assistant professor of pulmonary disease and critical care medicine, and we'll begin with his work on the role of microRNA in lung cancer progression. Please describe your project for us, Dr. Acunzo.
Yes, of course. My KL2 project is focused on studying microRNAs. That is actually a group of small non-coding RNAs. In particular, we study a specific chemical modification that is called A2I editing, and how this modification of these small non-coding RNAs is dysregulated in lung cancer. Also, we collaborate for this project with the Ohio State University, in particular with Professor Carlo Croce and with Dr. Nigita, but also with a group of bioengineers, like for example, Dr. Lee, for developing different strategies for profiling these chemical modification of microRNAs from the tissue, but also from the circulation of lung cancer patients. And the scope of my KL2 project is try to understand the role of these chemical modification that again result to be dysregulated in cancer in general, but in particular we focus on lung cancer. So we are trying to understand the potential role as biomarkers of, for example, early lung cancer disease, in particular when we profile it from the circulation, but at the same time we are trying also to understand the function. And in particular for my KL2 project, I found that one of these edited microRNAs, the MIR411, results to be hypoedited not only in the tissue, but also in the circulation of lung cancer patient, thanks to the KL2 program and to the resources that the KL2 program provided me. I found that this MIR is relevant for drug resistance, in particular for the tyrosine kinase inhibitor drug resistance in lung cancer.
Next up, we have Dr. Elizabeth Wolf, an assistant professor of pediatrics, and she works to identify the geographic and patient-level risk factors for inadequate prenatal care and well child care in the greater Richmond region. What about your project, Dr. Wolf?
So my project is focused on understanding the reasons why women and children do not attend preventative visits. So in the case of women, that would be prenatal visits. And in the case of children, that would be well child visits. And we've taken a three-pronged approach to understanding why these visits are missed. The first part was doing an epidemiologic study with the electronic health record to understand some of the social and demographic barriers that women and children may experience. For example, we found that transportation played a role in missed visits. We also discovered that lack of insurance played a role in missed visits. The second part of the study was actually doing a hot spotting analysis. So what this means is looking at the neighborhood distribution of missed visits to try to find out which were the neighborhoods where women and children were missing the most visits. And we found some hot spots in the Petersburg area and the South Hill Emporia area, as well as parts of South Richmond. And then the third part of the study was actually doing some community engaged research with the Center on Society and Health's branch called Engaging Richmond, and also with the help of Rachel Hunley, who's a member of the Wright Center CCTR. And for that, we engaged mothers as well as community health workers to really hear in their own words why they think these visits were being missed, and more importantly, how it could be improved. We were able to identify specific barriers, for example, transportation, which I mentioned. So right now, we are investigating ways to try to improve transportation through partnering with a group called Round Trip, which is a startup that actually began in Richmond that partners with various healthcare systems across the country to try to bring patients to their visits. Another aspect that we're working on is the insurance aspect. I'm part of a governor's task force right now to try to see, are there state models across the country that we can use where, states like Oregon or New York, where they've insured basically all of their children, to try to look at these states and see which elements of their insurance programs can we use here in Virginia to try to capture these children in public insurance.
Wonderful. Our third exiting scholar is Dr. Julian Zhu, an assistant professor of pharmaceutics who worked to develop next-generation nanomedicines for combination cancer immunotherapy. Please tell us about your project, Dr. Zhu.
So the project we're working on the KL2 as a KL2 scholar is a combination of a very interesting and novel immunotherapy with a chemotherapy for the treatment of melanoma. Melanoma is a very notorious type of tumor, and there are some recent progress in the treatment of melanoma, but still the majority of advanced melanoma patient doesn't respond well to current patient. So there's still much room to improve the treatment for this population of melanoma. So our specific approach is to combine a type of a chemotherapy with a new type of therapeutic vaccine that can specifically induce immune responses that can recognize and destroy melanoma tumor cells, but not healthy cells. And by that, we wanted to combine the power of chemotherapy and the power of immunotherapy so that they can work synergistically with each other for a optimal therapeutic efficacy.
Optimizing therapeutic efficacy is certainly important for such a common cancer. Now, each of your projects are very different, and I imagine that each of you reaped a different benefit from the KL2 program. Will you describe how the award contributed to your professional development? Let's start with Dr. Wolf.
I would say it's really essential. It's provided me protected time away from some clinical work to really focus on some of these research questions and also develop those connections, both here at VCU and also with some of my colleagues across the country in Stanford and in CHOP specifically. It's provided me training in bioethical principles and research integrity, and it's really provided a springboard in terms of other grant funding.
Your project was so community-oriented. What about community connections?
Yeah, so it did help connect us with some of the community health workers like at Family Lifeline, which is a home visiting program here in Virginia, as well as some of those folks who work in the Community Academic Partnership of Engaging Richmond and in the East End of Richmond. So it was incredibly helpful that way.
Interesting. And now, Dr. Zhu?
As a scientist, it gives you 75% of protected time for research. That is very precious for a junior faculty. As an independent investigator without previous independent research experience, so you really need a lot of time to figure out things and to try to kick off a lot of things. So the protected time is really important. The other is the research benefit. The KL2 project helped me to advance my research because it has a really, really strong team that helped me to brainstorm my research project, helped me with my grant application, helped me with my grantsmanship, and organize the activity to improve my research. It also helped me to get a chance to reach to local community so that I can have more outreach activities, being invited to multiple seminars that are presented to the public, to the local community, including a TED talk at the RBA, in which I was invited to give a talk to those younger generation locally. So that's very exciting. And also this program, that's a very well-designed career plan for each scholar. And that is very helpful for us to first have a career plan that's well thought and have input from mentors from the KL2 program, KL2 mentors and the leadership. But also we revisit those career plan development and make adjustments if needed. So those are very important as well. So those career plans covers pretty much everything about career. So that's also very helpful.
Did I hear correctly that you were invited to do a TED RVA talk
yes.
as a result of this? Oh, wow. Can you tell me what the topic was?
I was talking about a type of a COVID-19 vaccine that can be administered just like a patch without any needles.
That's pretty cool. And Dr. Acunzo?
This program allowed me to develop leadership, mentorship, and grant writing skills. Also, thanks to the Grant Academy, that is a program where KL2 scholars follow for an entire year, that gives us a lot of suggestions, a lot of workshop on how to improve our grant writing. So furthermore, the constant mentoring by the KL2 team, including the principal mentor, allows the KL2 scholar to be followed step by step during our professional development. Furthermore, as a KL2 scholar, we attended several academic courses, like as I said before, team science, but also scientific integrity. This is very important because nowadays we are experiencing to an increased lack of integrity in science. And this course gave us the basic to understand how to be better scientists in terms of integrity, how to produce reliable data and reproducible data. The exchange program with Georgetown University helped us to improve our team science, to expand our collaboration portfolio. And regarding also the engagement in the community, in my case, I am applying my research also to lung cancer disparities in the community, especially here in Virginia, trying to understand if the chemical modification of microRNAs, in particular the A2I editing, but also other modification in the biogenesis of microRNA, can actually impact differently African Americans versus white Americans. And of course, the whole KL2 program is completely focused on develop our personal career, but the final goal is to prepare each scholar or awardee to become independent. And I think that independency is completely focused on getting funded by an NIH R1 grants or similar that will allow us to build better science and also hire more professional people like postdocs for building a solid research and improve our research portfolio in terms of project, but also improving our publications. So it's completely, the whole program is completely focused on preparing the awardees to become independent.
Whether it's independence or grantsmanship or protected time, this award clearly offers a wide array of professional development. Dr. Nana-Sinkam, to wrap us up, what advice would you give faculty who are applying to the program?
There are several points that any faculty member who may be interested in applying for the KL2 program should keep in mind. One is the level of commitment required to be KL2 scholar. KL2 programs really are about 2 to 3 years in duration. It's really important that junior faculty understand that the path to becoming independent does require significant commitment. We believe that 2 to 3 years is at the minimum the commitment that's required to become an independent investigator. During that time, young faculty should expect to devote at least 75% of their time to research. We know that anything less than that can sometimes hamper a young investigator's ability to become independent because there is just sheerly a large amount of information that a young investigator has to be able to absorb throughout the process and a fair amount of skills that they have to learn. The second point I would make is that the success of a young investigator applying for a KL2 is very dependent on a well-articulated career development plan. And we make that part of the application process, and it is factored in significantly in the ultimate evaluation, as well as a strong mentorship team. The mentorship team is particularly important because we want to be assured that any young investigator who is applying for a KL2 program has mentorship consisting of investigators who have led and trained and mentored young investigators towards independence. That provides us a little more assurance that the young investigator will be led on the proper path. The last thing that I would say is that the KL2 program can really be leveraged in a few different ways. One is that the KL2 program being 2 to 3 years can sometimes be leveraged as a transition towards a different K award, another career development award, because the KL2 represents only one of several career development awards. Sometimes investigators feel that once they've completed the KL2 program 2 or 3 years, that they still need a little bit more time in the form of a mentored career development award. So it is possible to then transition to another NIH career development award. But we really believe that with proper focus, an appropriate career development plan, and a strong mentorship team, all supporting a very enthusiastic, hardworking young investigator, that it is possible after 2 to 3 years of a KL2 to really be ready to apply towards an independent grant, which we call the R Award.
Thank you all for sharing your experiences and perspectives. Whether you're on the go or just need a quick break, we hope that these insights into the faculty at VCU School of Medicine will empower and inspire you to teach, lead, discover, advance, and serve with excellence. For more information on the resources mentioned in this episode, please check out the links provided in the episode description. See you soon.